Imagine pulling into a gas station, filling up your tank, then dropping something that costs about $1 into your fuel before driving away. A week later, your car starts going farther on every tank. It sounds like one of those internet myths that mechanics laugh about, but here's the strange part. For decades, thousands of American drivers believed a tiny fuel additive helped their engines run cleaner and squeeze more miles out of every gallon. So why did these products almost completely disappear? Were they simply outdated, or is there a much bigger story hiding behind them? Today, we're digging into forgotten fuel additives, the oil crisis of the 1970s, old mechanic journals, modern combustion research, and one simple question: could there really be a cheap way to improve fuel efficiency? Or has the internet mixed together history, science, and myth? Let's find out. Back in the late 1940s and early 1950s, America was obsessed with automobiles. Highways stretched farther every year, families traveled across the country, and almost every small town had its own gas station. Alongside motor oil, spark plugs, and fan belts, many stations also sold small boxes of fuel treatment tablets. These weren't considered miracle products. They were simply another maintenance item, much like changing your oil or checking your tire pressure. Drivers bought them because they believed they helped keep engines cleaner and running more efficiently. One Oklahoma driver named Roy Calhoun reportedly used these tablets in his Studebaker Commander for years. According to stories passed down through mechanics and enthusiasts, he believed his car consistently delivered better fuel economy than similar vehicles driven by friends and neighbors. Whether every mileage claim was perfectly accurate is impossible to verify today. But what's well documented is that fuel additives were incredibly common during this era. Hardware stores, farm co-ops, and rural gas stations across the Midwest stocked several different brands, and many motorists used them without giving the chemistry much thought. So what were these mysterious fuel tablets? Most were made with naphthalene, a chemical many people associate with old-fashioned mothballs. But here's where the confusion begins. The fuel tablets sold in the 1940s and 1950s were not the same as the household mothballs sold today. Modern mothballs are often made with different chemicals, like paradichlorobenzene, or contain low-purity naphthalene mixed with fillers. They're designed to repel insects, not to be used in fuel. That's why automotive experts strongly warn against putting modern mothballs into a gas tank. The original tablets worked on a simple scientific principle. Inside an engine, gasoline is sprayed into tiny droplets before ignition. The finer those droplets are, the more completely the fuel can burn. Better combustion can reduce wasted fuel and improve efficiency under the right conditions. The real question wasn't whether combustion science was valid, it was whether these tablets made a significant difference in everyday driving. Some drivers claimed impressive fuel savings, while others noticed little or no change. As interest in fuel additives grew, chemical companies began filing patents for new fuel treatment formulas throughout the early 1960s. Around the same time, many small manufacturers of these tablets disappeared from the market. Some were bought out, others couldn't compete, and by the late 1960s, the once common white boxes had nearly vanished from store shelves. Then came the 1973 oil crisis. Gas prices surged, fuel shortages spread across America, and long lines formed at gas stations. Suddenly, every extra mile mattered. Older mechanics remembered the forgotten tablets and began searching for alternatives. One chemical kept coming up: acetone. Known today as an industrial solvent and a common ingredient in nail polish remover, some mechanics believed that in extremely small amounts. Acetone could improve fuel atomization, allowing gasoline to burn more efficiently. Laboratory studies have shown that acetone gasoline blends can slightly improve combustion under controlled conditions. However, real-world driving is far more complex, and those laboratory gains don't always translate to noticeable fuel savings on the road. That's why many online claims of 30 to 40% better gas mileage should be viewed with caution. Most automotive engineers agree that such dramatic improvements from a simple additive alone are highly unlikely. In reality, any gains are usually modest and depend heavily on the vehicle's condition, driving habits, and maintenance. One of the most interesting stories comes from Walter Pryor, a machinist from Tulsa, Oklahoma, who reportedly tracked fuel economy on dozens of vehicles over nearly 4 decades. According to his family's records, he documented improvements averaging 12 to 19% when experimenting with small amounts of acetone, not the 40% often claimed online. His notes also suggested that regular gasoline benefited more than premium fuel, although those observations were based on personal records rather than large scientific studies. Whether Walter's findings apply to modern vehicles remains uncertain. But his careful record-keeping reminds us of an important lesson. Real evidence comes from careful testing, not internet myths or marketing claims. Still, one question remains. If researchers have observed combustion changes, if mechanics experimented with these ideas for decades, and if fuel treatment tablets were once sold across America, why doesn't every mechanic recommend them today? The answer is simpler than many conspiracy theories suggest. Modern vehicles are completely different from the cars of the 1950s and 1970s. Today's engines use electronic fuel injection, oxygen sensors, catalytic converters, turbochargers, and powerful computers that constantly fine-tune combustion. Because of that, an additive that may have helped older engines might have little or no effect on modern ones. In some cases, using the wrong chemical could even damage fuel system or emissions components. That's why manufacturers recommend using only approved fuels and additives designed for your vehicle. The real lesson isn't that there's a hidden miracle sitting on a hardware store shelf. It's that combustion science is incredibly complex. Engineers spend years improving fuel efficiency because even a 1% gain can save millions of gallons of fuel worldwide. Modern gasoline already contains carefully engineered detergents and additives that help engines run cleaner than fuels from decades ago. But history is still fascinating. Fuel treatment tablets really were sold across America. Mechanics really did experiment with combustion modifiers during the 1970s fuel crisis. And researchers really have studied chemicals like acetone in gasoline under controlled laboratory conditions. Where the story becomes uncertain is when those facts are turned into claims that every vehicle can suddenly gain 40% better fuel economy. The available evidence simply doesn't support that. Even the records attributed to machinist Walter Pryor suggested much smaller improvements, not miracle results. Perhaps Walter's greatest lesson wasn't about acetone at all. It was about measuring results instead of believing claims. Track your fuel economy. Maintain your vehicle. Keep your tires properly inflated, replace worn spark plugs and dirty air filters, and follow your manufacturer's recommendations. Those proven maintenance steps will almost always deliver more reliable fuel savings than chasing miracle additives. In the end, this story isn't just about fuel, it's about curiosity. Sometimes history, science, and legend become so intertwined that separating fact from fiction becomes the real mystery. Keep asking questions, keep looking at the evidence, and let the facts guide your conclusions. If you enjoyed this deep dive into automotive history and engineering, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let us know in the comments if you ever tried a fuel additive that actually made a difference. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.